Let's jump into that first story. This one's got me hot, riled up. I'm all angry. Check out the story from Intelligence or NY Mag. Authorities say cop accidentally shot and killed Daunte Wright. This is an interesting story. Yesterday, we heard that these cops shot and killed a guy. He got pulled over, so his mom says, because he had air freshener hanging from his rearview mirror. They say that's illegal in Minnesota. When he was pulled over, the mom says she heard on the phone, he was calling her trying to get the insurance information. The cops say, get out of the car. He says, why? And they say, we'll tell you when you get out of the car. Apparently then the mom, gets off the phone. He puts the phone down. Body camera footage finally gets released. It got released today. I guess the cops were very eager to put this out. I guess the cops thought that by putting out this footage, it would calm things down. In my opinion, no. It's only going to make things worse. In the mind of these cops, they're like, see, you have this lady cop, and she's like, she yells, taser, taser, taser. You've got Daunte Wright resisting on camera, trying to jump back in his car and take off. And she's holding her gun. She yells taser 3 times, shoots him once, and then says, holy S, I shot him. He drove a little bit, crashed, and then he died in the car. So the cops saying, look, we genuinely believe it was an accidental discharge, that she was trying to tase him. There's a lot of issues here. First and foremost, Black Lives Matter protests and riots erupted immediately. Then many of these people who had been seen at these rallies started looting stores. I get these people hitting me up on Twitter and they're like, how do you even know those people are Black Lives Matter? And there's like a photo going around of them literally waving a Black Lives Matter flag. I'm like, come on, dude. I'm not trying to besmirch the good name of literally everybody who believes in justice. I'm pointing out these people are protesting 1 minute. Some of them go off and loot. It just happens. Some looters exploit the whole system. Now, all this is happening in the backdrop of the Chauvin trial, so things are going to get absolutely nuts. Summer is lighting up, and there's a meme going around where it says, how to tell it was summer, 1990s. And it's the guy holding up Punxsutawney Phil or whatever that groundhog's name is, and says 2020, and it shows a dude sitting in a car with his fist up and there's fires all around him. Yeah, that's right. We know that it's getting warm outside because the riots are going to start. And if these cops think that any one of these extremists that are going around burning down the city are going to give them an inch, they're insane. I think this lady cop is going to go to jail. They're going to try and charge her with whatever they can. They might even get her on murder 3. We'll break all that down. But, before I go nuts and just rant on all that stuff, I want to just throw it to you guys, like your thoughts immediately on the news coming out of these riots and stuff.
Well, I mean, you mentioned that she had an accidental discharge, and that was purely negligence. She didn't know what she was doing. The police frequently need more training. Yeah, she panicked. You hear stories about, police looking for, or they're talking about defund the police. And honestly, the police probably need more funding for training.
That's what I've always been saying.
Yeah, I mean, if you are given the power over life and death of citizens, if you are going to be given a firearm to go out in the community and stuff, you want your police officers to have as much training as possible. You probably should roll back legislation because you don't want police doing all the jobs that they're supposed to do. I understand that being a police officer is hard. I'm not like an ACAB dude at all. And it's a difficult job, but that doesn't mean that we have to make exceptions for when they make mistakes. You have to be held to account when you make a mistake, and that negligence cost a man his life for nothing because he was, like we talked earlier, the reason that he had a
so we're going to get into the full layers of this thing right now. You're going to go right for it.
I mean, I'm a big 2A guy, so yep. The reason that he had a warrant was because he was carrying a gun in violation of state law. But in my opinion, there shouldn't be a state law regarding carrying a gun.
I agree. So this is a sandwich here. We got a libertarian. He shouldn't have resisted libertarian argument, right? The way I see it is, here's what happens with this guy. He gets pulled over. He didn't realize he had a warrant. Andy No put up the record of what the warrant was all about. Here's what I think happened. They say he was in possession of a firearm without a permit, and he fled by means other than a vehicle, both misdemeanors. I think this guy got stopped at one point, and he had a Ruger 45. And the cops saw the gun and said, you're under arrest, and he ran and got away. I bet he thought he was clean. He got away. The cops got a warrant for his arrest. So when he gets pulled over, he's thinking like it's no big deal. Then when they're like, get out of the car, and he's like, what's going on? You're under arrest. Then he's like, I gotta flee. I gotta get out of here. He shouldn't have resisted arrest. If he didn't, listen, so like, I guess where we're going with this is, He shouldn't have received any warrant or charges simply because he had a gun. But if he didn't resist and he just put his hands behind his back on 2 misdemeanors, then a gun rights group or someone could have advocated for his right to bear arms.
Yeah.
You know,
you never should resist, because it always ends with more. It always escalates to more force.
well, I never say never, but 99.9%
Almost.
of the time.
Yeah. It's your chances of getting shot go up exponentially as soon as you resist. So fight the fight in the court. You don't fight the police. You are going to lose, and there's always more cops. Like
Right.
there are always more cops coming. There's backup coming, and there's backup to backup. I mean, it's like GTA. Eventually, the National Guard with tanks come if you kill enough cops in the game, right? So eventually, they're gonna come with like the APCs. You are gonna get shot, killed. Don't fight the cops. Fight in court. That being said, you shouldn't have to have so many interactions with the police. You shouldn't have to worry about, I had a gun and the police are going to take me to jail for it, just for possessing
Right.
a gun. So
When I say never about resisting, I'm not talking about, a cop says, look, you got a warrant, you're under arrest. The reason I say that is because, like, there might be a cop committing a crime, legit.
Sure.
And he's like, I'm a cop, I can do what I want. Okay, that's different. You know what I mean? That's why I say never say never. If you get stopped by a cop and he's like, look, I'm arresting you, you're not going to win.
Nope. No.
If you're trying to get in a physical fight.
Yeah.
The smart people, you keep your mouth shut. You just remain silent, put your hands behind your back. You call a lawyer as soon as you can, and you got to fight in the system. It's not easy.
The right to remain silent is a right that is an option, and it's also your absolute best option if you feel that you're in a position where the police are doing something wrong. Explain, say, look, I don't consent to any searches. Here's my information. And then you don't have to say anything else if you don't want. They're going to say that you're being uncooperative. They're going to say things to try and intimidate you. They're going to say things to try and make their own job easier, because that's what it boils down to, is they want their job to be easy, because most of them look at it as, it's just a job. I'm doing my job. This is, you don't make my job harder. But you still aren't obligated to talk to the police. Just don't say anything, but don't resist.
Now we go to the next layer of this whole thing. The rioting is the worst part about all of it.
Well, the dead guy's the worst part about all of it. Then the second worst thing
right,
is
no,
the
absolutely.
rioting. So,
I mean, moving beyond that.
Sure.
That's what I should clarify too. After this instance, we have a bunch of people going around rioting, destroying everything, and for what? For what? Why? Why are they going into T-Mobile and GameStop and stealing, twerking in the parking lot as they do it? It's not for justice.
No, it's not.
But is the media going to come out and be like, opportunist looters are destroying the city?
No, because clicks.
Yep.
I mean, if the more intense the situation gets on the ground, the more people are going to click the headlines, the more profit the media will make.
This is weird to me though. Like, you'd think the shock content of like rioters burn down the city would be the narrative that would generate the most clicks for like a suburban family. They should be writing headlines that are like, crazy rioters are burning down the city. How long until they come to your house? Instead, they're like, peaceful protesters are shopping without permission at night.
I got nothing. I don't know what the hell they're thinking. I don't know what they're thinking. I agree with you. The stories themselves, I feel like, are enough to get people to click. I think that the narrative that's being spun by most of your major media outlets is what they believe people want to read. So, like you said, side with the audience, and I think that's what people really want to.
You said that you searched Riot on Google search.
We'll jump to that.
That's crazy.
But I want to get back on the gun thing, because like the one thing that's really pissed me off, I tweeted, this lady cop, send her to jail, lock her up.
Yeah.
And it was funny because all these lefties were like, based Tim? Like, is Tim like? Whoa, hold on. There's two things I want to say here. I've bought a bunch of guns recently. And every time I go there, there's one very important thing that every gun owner has told me. No matter what happens, you are responsible for what comes out of that barrel.
Absolutely.
Accident or otherwise. You got to take responsibility. That's why it is your responsibility to have all of the basic training. Don't point the gun at something unless you intend to destroy it. Keep your finger off the trigger. Guns are always loaded. All of these rules. Now, I get it. This lady, she screwed up. She thought she was going for a taser. She yelled taser, but she was holding her gun. Heat of the moment, she was panicked. People don't realize that stress. She's still responsible for what comes out of that gun.
Absolutely.
Now, here's the other thing, though, because we were getting into this. I'm extremely pissed about this whole interaction. I don't blame the cops themselves for being like, he's got a warrant, we got to arrest him. Because they don't necessarily know what this is all about. But like we mentioned, this guy had he had a gun. And that was the grounds for him being charged with the crime. What law did he break? The Constitution says shall not be infringed.
Yep.
He didn't rob anybody. And I'll tell you what really bugs me is I'm seeing conservatives post, this guy, there's one viral Twitter post where he's like, this guy would have robbed you in 2 seconds because he's got photos of him pointing a gun. I'm like, nah, you have a right to bear arms, sorry.
Absolute garbage take. The idea that someone can predict that this guy would have done this or would have done that, there is absolutely no way of knowing it. And just because the conservative doesn't like the way the guy looks doesn't mean that the guy doesn't have rights. He has rights.
For sure. I do think there's like photos of him with like his gun and he's like pointing it at the camera and I'm like, that's cringy.
I mean, it's
But you're allowed
cringy,
to
but
do it.
I know that there are pictures of me holding guns out there, you know? I mean, I'm a big
Yeah, right.
2A guy. I've got videos on my YouTube page of me at classes training, you know, which I'm going to take 1 second and steal the spotlight here. If you own guns, get training, please get training. It's the best thing. The most responsible thing you can do is know how to properly use your gun. All right. Sorry.
You were saying before the show, you took a police training gun class.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it
I
was
think
totally
couple-
inadequate.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've done, first time I ever shot, I went to a range with some other gun people. Well, I should say with one guy who was like well-versed in guns for a variety of reasons. He was a conflict reporter and he's been in countries where they have full auto just rampaging about. So that's where he gave me some basic instruction. I wouldn't say it was like a legit training, but I actually did do an interview with a police trainer and went through the full police training. It's like a day. It's 1 day. So I'm like sitting in a classroom. They're going over all this basic stuff. They're talking about, you know, a good shoot, a bad shoot, things like that. And then they allowed us to just sit in on it. And then afterwards we went to their range and they walked me through the use of like all these different guns, down from like starting with like a 22 handgun, like really easy for someone who's never shot before, even though I had, and then up to, I can't remember what the highest caliber they had was. You said, what did you think it was, like a 10 millimeter?
It could have been 10 millimeter, yeah.
It felt like it was bigger than 45.
Magnum or something.
Something Magnum probably. And so I shot all these different guns. And the reason I say it was inadequate because I'm like, dude, I shot like 12 bullets. You know what I mean? And my aim is not good with these things. I was missing everything. Now, long guns, a lot easier to be accurate with. But I'm imagining like a lot of these people who went through this were doing it to get some kind of certification. And then you put these people out on the street.
Yeah.
So
certification's not enough. The big reason to go for training, just a certification is basic understanding and stuff. The reason you should go for training is so that way you know how to operate the gun should you need to. You learn things like clearing your garment if you're carrying it concealed, things that are practical, and how to draw your gun and keep your finger off the trigger while you're drawing it, because one of the things that happens too frequently is people grab their gun and their hand goes right into their finger goes right into the trigger guard when they're pulling it out, and then they have a negligent discharge and stuff.
This is something we were talking about just before the show. I'm like, what? She had a Glock. I'm pretty sure it was a Glock. And they don't have safeties. And I'm like, I wonder if this whole thing would just be solved if they gave her like a Beretta with like an actual safety on it. Just click the little safety up.
Those things are like we said, those are training issues where if you have a firearm with a safety on it, again, if you train, pulling a firearm with a safety and turning the safety off, it doesn't take any more time. You're not a slower, it's not slower to get the gun out and stuff. But it's a training issue. If you have a gun like that, you need to train with it. Training is one of the most important aspects of owning a gun.
She's going to be Chauvin number 2.
Probably. You should go to a training every year. I'm going this weekend. You should go to one training class a year. I can't drive that point home.
Could you argue that the dude got in his car and looked like he was diving for a gun?
Yeah, a lot of people. I mean, that's fair. Completely
probably
fair.
what she thought.
He had a gun. No. She was going for a taser. She said taser.
She thought he was going for a weapon, so that's why she
said taser. I think it's definitive. Like a reasonable person would conclude, she thought she was grabbing her taser, not her gun. Mm-hmm. But it is fair to conclude they thought he may be going for a weapon because his warrant was for having a weapon. I don't care for that argument. Everybody should have a weapon because the Constitution says you can. Yeah. And if you want to change it, you change Constitution.
Yeah, but not everyone should die for their weapon when they're being detained.
Nobody should die for their weapon at all. 0 people.
Exactly.
There should be 0 people diving for their weapon when they're getting arrested by the police.
Yeah.
Cops pulling you over, you're getting arrested. You keep your hands visible. You obey. You put your hands behind your back. You let them cuff you. You keep your mouth shut. You deal with it through the courts. What people don't realize, when all these people resist arrest and they're like, this is BS, man, you can't arrest me. Dude, this is the good side of things. In some countries, they just beat you to death right there on the spot. Yeah. In some countries, they just put a cap and then they're done. In America, oh no, you have to go and have a lawyer represent you, and you get to actually come out and bond. Some places are doing cashless bail
Literally
now.
first world problems.
Yeah.
As much of a hassle as it is, you're totally right. You are 100% on the money there. It is first world problems that you have to go to court and go through a justice system, as opposed to getting your ass handed to you,
or just being locked up and throw away the key. It's amazing that we're so used to this amazing system that the founding fathers had to die for.
Yeah.
Well, what is it? You might know this better than me. Where it's like a certain number of the men who signed the Declaration of Independence lost their fortunes, were killed, their houses were burned to the ground.
Yeah,
that's what they fought for, to ensure that when we get arrested, we get to go to court.
They pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor.
Yep.
And many of them died and didn't have anything left of their kids. Their houses were burned. Their families were killed. We know about a lot of the founding fathers that survived and stuff, but there were people that signed the Declaration that lost everything, and died for it. So
and part of that, what they got us was the Bill of Rights, which is the right to a speedy trial, right? That's in the 5th, I think, right?
It is in the 5th, yeah.
Quite literally, the right to a trial is that you're going to get arrested, you're going to go before a judge, and you can ask for a jury of your peers. It's not easy, and it's not always fair. I think, it's better than 10 guilty persons escape than 1 innocent person suffer.
Absolutely.
But we strive for that, and it's not easy, and there is injustice. But it's like, dude, you're getting arrested. I'd be like, man, I'm sure glad I'm not in Turkey.
Yeah, really? Or in Chile?
Yeah.
I like how you phrase it. You get to go to court, because in a lot of countries,
you're lucky to go to court.
You just get beat down, or if you don't bribe them, then you suffer.
Yeah.
In Turkey, if you're a journalist, they just lock you up and you don't get out.
The oubliette.
Yeah, that's just to go to jail.
And then the Saudis come and kill you in the embassy if your name Khashoggi.
So Turkey has the worst laws for journalism, and so I've been there reporting a couple times, and the pro-Turkey people try to justify it, saying, no, you don't understand. Turkey is really good for journalists. The people who are arrested aren't journalists. They're like activists claiming they're journalists because they have a cell phone. And I'm like, so journalists? Like, sorry, dude, I get it. I get what you're saying. So we see these people out. It's one thing if someone's like, I'm a journalist, and they throw a Molotov cocktail. It's another thing when there's a guy wearing an Antifa sticker is just filming.
Yeah.
Push that guy aside. He's allowed to film. It's an act of journalism. But in Turkey, they don't care. They lock you up. They throw away the key. You don't get a First Amendment. You don't get a Fifth Amendment. You don't get a Second Amendment.
You don't even have the First Amendment in countries that allegedly have the freedom of speech.
Like Britain. You don't
exactly.
have First Amendment.
In the UK, you can get thrown in jail for bad Facebook posts. In Canada, you can get thrown in jail for saying the wrong thing.
In the UK, you could do something like, I don't know, teach your pug to do like the Roman salute or something.
For instance.
For instance, and then they'll lock you up. And then
I love Mark.
Then you can teach your other pug, who's actually a black pug, to do the black power fist, and they don't care at all.
Hypothetically, yeah.
I gotta say, for those that aren't familiar, I'm making a reference to Count Dankula.
He's the best.
When he did his first video, which got him in trouble, was he wanted to make his dog a Nazi, his girlfriend's dog, because it was the nastiest thing he could think of. But he later on, after all of this he's been through, he made a video where the other pug, who was black, he had it raise its fist for black power, and it's hilarious. And I gotta admit, the cojones on this guy. Going through the courts, so they try to lock him in jail. He's laughing. The media smears him, and then he's like, I'll do it again. but you know what he knew? He knew they wouldn't arrest him for the black power thing. That was the point. And the video is really good. He's like, oh no, the Labor Party's coming us to hide the Torah.
I hope he moves to the U.S.
Freaking
he kills me.
He belongs here.
So
That's
funny.
I feel for people when they see like American comedy and they try and pull it off in their own country and get busted by their cheap law enforcement.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.